Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Marlowe Stoudamire, sitting in for Stephen Henderson. We're coming to you today from the Detroit Historical Museum, and it's fitting that our first segment is about history makers. Every year, African American leaders across the country go back to school to talk with young people about overcoming challenges and becoming successful. The life stories of these men and women are included in the nation's largest African American oral history video collection called the HistoryMakers. The archives are housed in the Library of Congress and contain more than 2,600 interviews. I'm pleased to have three of the local history makers here today: Motown legend Martha Reeves, journalist and executive director of Arise Detroit Luther Keith, and former University of Michigan athletic director and current insurance executive Tom Goss. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get right into it. Before we start going into a lot of individual detail, I really want to understand and give the people at home perspective on why you chose to participate in the 7th annual Back to School program with the History Makers.
One of my favorite things in life has been school. Some of my favorite people have been teachers. And I like to express that to a lot of the youngsters today to let them know they must be educated to exist in this world.
That's a good answer. Tom, how about you?
You know, I've always enjoyed talking to young people and making sure that they can visualize what they can be. If they can see themselves as an executive, they can see themselves as an entertainer, they can see themselves as a doctor, they will then know that there's preparation that is needed to accomplish that.
Mr. Keith.
Well, yeah, one thing I think when you're very young, it's hard to realize that all the people that are rich and famous that you emulate and idolize were just like you one day. They sat in those same chairs wondering how life's going to go. And we are reflections of that. So if they can identify with you, they can say, I can be that, I can do that. And I think it's important that they have those examples, and that's why I'm part of this.
And they can be history makers too.
Exactly.
So speaking of history makers, Martha, deep down inside, what does that truly mean to you, knowing that you're a part of this legacy that will live on forever, being a part of the Library of Congress? And why does history really matter, especially to young people today?
Well, it matters to me that they understand that school is just the beginning of their lives. I've been reading and applying myself to education and learning wisdom all my life. It didn't just stop with elementary school, and had very little college, but had a lot of instructors and instructions, since Motown had a artist development department where we were trained in artist development, choreography, and personal self-esteem lessons. So it's important that students know that it doesn't stop with just the classrooms that they're in today. I'm still reading, I'm still learning, and still getting wisdom.
Still using those lessons from then, right?
That's right.
That's really important. And so, Tom, you know, when we talk about history, I know a lot of people know you as the first African-American athletic director with the University of Michigan. But I think it's also important that people understand that before that job and after that job, successful businessman, philanthropist. Can you talk a little bit about serving the community and your legacy and what personal stories you share with kids?
You know, there's several stories, but more important, one of the things that I try to make sure they understand, to be successful, you must have some core values. Values that not only you believe in and that you can kind of hang on to when times are difficult. And those values sometimes really helps impact where you're headed in your career. And the sooner they learn that core values are needed in their life, goal setting is needed in their life, they're able to accomplish more during a shorter period of time.
So just to peel the onion a little bit on that, how or what are some stories or some anecdotes that you can provide throughout your career that really kind of, you know, weigh in on that a little bit more?
Yes. One of the things I share with them is how my father made sure I understood education was the most important thing I could be trying to go after. When I was in high school, I was blessed to have good skills where I was able to play 4 different sports and achieved all-state in 2 of the 4. At that point in time, I had never made a C in my life. And We were headed to the state championship in basketball. All at once, my grades came home. I had a C among the other B's and A's that I had. My father actually pulled me off the basketball team. I did not make it to the state championship. My coach was berserk. He lost his mind, but it didn't matter. My father made that point, and clearly education became the #1 focus for me.
Right, right. And I really think that that's a message that a lot of young people need to hear more often. Now, Luther, as a former award-winning journalist with the Detroit News and founder of Arise Detroit, you're no stranger to the city and its unique challenges that people are facing, specifically young people.
Right.
Talk about the importance of community champions like you coming back to the community and sharing your personal experience and even some of the struggles that you've experienced and encountered on your path to success. Why is that important?
Well, I think it's important to know that no matter how big the challenge or how daunting the odds, that we can overcome and succeed. Just look at the history of African Americans in the country, what we started with and what we still are challenged with. And I think it's important for young people to know that they can overcome. The problems are not too big. The most important thing, I think, is to believe that not to give up, not to be deterred, and to continue the struggle. And I think Thomas says, I think he said success is a 90% perspiration and 10% inspiration. And that's what it takes, a lot of perspiration, a lot of hard work. No one said it was going to be easy, but the rewards are so great. And I think one of the things we need to emphasize that you're going to get knocked down, you're going to have people that don't like you, there are going to be people who are going to have to put up hurdles. But if you continue to press toward the mark, you can succeed and you will succeed. And then you'll be interviewed and you'll be telling your story, how you overcome, because all of us here have had those challenges and still have them.
Right.
And so that's very important to understand that you got to continue to persevere.
Perseverance. Martha.
Yes.
Let's take a step back. Intended as a party song, many young people adopted the song Dancing in the Streets as
It's
sort
street, it's singular.
as in the street,
There's a difference.
as a civil rights anthem, right? Or a call to action, some people would say. But we'd like to hear it from you. We'd like to know the relevance of the song. What was Detroit like during that time? And what role does music play, including then and now?
Had asked me about Come and Get These Memories, my first record, because that's when I was a teenager, and everybody that had a relationship that they didn't like anymore, they said, come get your teddy bear and your friendship ring and little sweet things, little soft, warm, fuzzy things. My intention in singing Dancing in the Street was to emulate Marvin Gaye, who I heard sing it. He also wrote it along with William Stevenson and Ivy Hunter. At the time, I remember it being from the East Side, where we didn't have recreation halls and we didn't have American Idol or X Factor, and we would block the streets off with tape, police tape and horses, and we'd dance in the street. Everybody would cook the food. We had no woofers and tweeters, so the music wasn't real loud, and we danced in the street. That's what I thought about. It was taken into that context, I guess, because of the events that were happening. I happened to be on the stage about to introduce the song at the Fox Theater when the riots broke out here in the city of Detroit. So I don't know if it has anything to do with what Marvin Gaye, Ivy Hunter, and William Stevenson wrote, but to me it meant freedom, being able to dance in the neighborhood without getting hit by a truck or a car or a plane.
And
That was my dancing in the street.
That's something that young people need. They need
really
that
need.
freedom. They need that sense of being able to just be.
Yes.
And so, Tom, kind of coming full circle with that conversation, we all know it's important to have role models. Who were some of the role models that you had growing up, and whose work do you admire now who's playing an equal role in the advancement and engaging young people today?
Well, I was fortunate. I had a father that was a role model, and there were so many positive attributes that was with him. And back then, my father was always a leader in the community. My sister and I, integrated the school system in Knoxville, Tennessee, and the case is Goss versus the Board of Education. And that was our first experience of stepping outside the box and going to a school, not being able to. I went to the junior high school, she went to the high school, and neither one of them they let through the door. But my father was a leader in the community, and he put his kids up. We understood what it meant, and we knew it would be historical at that point in time.
Wow. And on the flip side, what do you see today? Who do you think is kind of leading the charge and some of the role models for young people today that are really kind of advancing the agenda?
You know, I would say our president made a great start at it. You know,
Right.
every young black kid, whether it's female or male, now has an opportunity to say, I can do that.
Right.
And I think he has been so classy in his role, really leading this nation and leading the world, that if I was going to pick an idol today, it would be the president.
It's a great answer. I agree with you. And Luther, you know, Neighborhood Day, right?
Right.
From building landscapes to cleaning up parks to parades and showcasing local talent. We know that it's the biggest annual event that Arise Detroit does. But what's next for Luther, Badman, Keith, and how do you stay engaged with students moving forward?
Well, this is, you're mixing both of my words, because in my evening life as a musician, as I'm playing with my blues band, which I play under the name Luther Badman Keith. And I use music much like Martha did. Music is such a great, great way to bring people together. People are always smiling. They don't care where you come from. They don't care how much they say, you like that, I like that, maybe we can be friends. So that's what music does, and I make great friends through music. In terms of young people today, I think we need, you know, there's a place for celebrities and politicians, but at the end of the day, like Tom was saying, kids need to be able to look to their parents, to their guardians, to those folks, because that's where it starts with. And I think as we can build strong families, we can build strong leaders, and that's where it starts. And then if a kid has a solid foundation in the home, they can grow and blossom. So I think while it's great to have role models, and we have a lot of them out here that get a lot of acclaim, I think we need to look at home, take care of home base, and the rest will work out.
The rest will work out, and that's what history makers do. You provide the context and the example. So with that being said, coming full circle, and we'll wrap with this question, Martha, Tom, Luther, what do you hope kids will take away, that final message from their engagement with you?
I hope they take the fact that if I could make it, so could they. I'm from a family of 12 children. I'm the third of 12, and my dad worked for the city of Detroit, the water board department. And I served on the Detroit City Council for 4 years because of my dad's love for the city of Detroit. I'm from Alabama, but being a little country girl with very little speaking skills, I was taught at Hitsville, USA, and Berry Gordy is my mentor because he made over 30 acts famous. He had a way of looking at you, kind of knowing whether you had talent or not, or whether you have the perseverance in your spirit to continue in this career. And he set the pace for all of us. And our music speaks for itself, and we carry a message of love. So I think that that's what they'll get from me. They'll know the love that I have for people, for the fact that God blessed me with a talent, and I became famous out of 1,000 girls in my neighborhood. And I don't know how, but I'm blessed.
Thank you. Tom?
Yes, I hope the young people, both the young boys and young ladies, that we have an opportunity to continue to visit with, I hope they are able to see that you can pick yourself up, try something different, but it's critical you have goals as you move down that road.
And Luther, very quickly.
Most important thing is to complete the journey of education. I often use this as a time to relate this. You can't win a football game in the first half. You can't win a baseball game in 8 innings or a basketball game by playing 3 quarters. You've got to complete the game, finish your education. All studies show completing the education is the #1 thing you can do that can enhance the quality of life for us. And that's what we need to do. Graduate, graduate, graduate.
Finish what you start.
Amen.
And we really appreciate your time. I feel like I learned a lot, and I feel like ongoing, you as history makers will continue to make history and set the example for future history makers.